Well, hello, everybody. I'm Travis Ehlen, the Director of Wealth Management here with Ehlen Heldman. I want to thank you for joining us today. We have a wonderful returning guest, Brant Owens from Protective Life Insurance. Last time he spoke about Social Security or Medicare. This time he'll be talking about Social Security. Brant's been in the financial services industry for 30 years, working with me and other advisors, helping us plan for our clients' retirement, happy retirement, I should say, and helping us just work with everyone better. He'll be sharing his expertise on Social Security. The presentation should last about 20 to 30 minutes today. We are recording this session, and it can be found on the Ehlen Heldman YouTube channel. Due to time constraints, we are not going to have a Q&A session today. We will be following up with everybody after, over the next week or so to answer any questions. Social Security is a very personal conversation, and there's no general rules on how to claim the benefits for yourself. So it's really a very personalized planning session. So securities are offered through Avantax Investment Services, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services are offered through Avantax Advisory Services. Insurance services offered through Avantax affiliated insurance agency. This content is for educational and informational purposes only and does not represent the views and opinions of Avantax Wealth Management or its subsidiaries. With no further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you, Brant.
Appreciate it, Travis. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here. I do appreciate the opportunity to spend a few minutes with you all on the very important topic of Social Security. I'm going to turn my camera off just in case my internet starts bogging down. That'll be one less thing I have to worry about hogging up my bandwidth. And then I'm going to attempt to share my screen. And hopefully you all are seeing the title page for Understanding Social Security. We're not going to go through all these slides in great detail. We're going to kind of keep this high level. Quickly about myself, I am a certified financial planner, have been since 2000, so over 20 years as a CFP, have been licensed in the financial services industry almost 30 years, getting very, very close to it. Back in 2020, end of 2020, I assume. Yeah, I did pick up my National Social Security Advisor certification. So I had to do a good amount of studying and take a final exam to be awarded that and demonstrate my expertise in Social Security and Medicare programs. So today, my goal is not to answer every single question you have about Social Security. That's probably impossible, but to impart upon you some of the important pieces of it, help you understand what Social Security is, how it operates, what may be there for you when you go to file. But then also, again, Travis already said this, but it's very, very important. There are no rules of thumb that apply to everybody as they reach Social Security age. It is a very personal, very particular decision-making process as to when I file, how I file, and what that means for the rest of the retirement. So gone over who I am already. I am working from home today. Sometimes that means my co-presenter will chime in. His name is Leo. He's a Corgi. If you know anything about that breed, they're very vocal. But if he starts barking, we'll just keep talking over him. He'll eventually wear himself out. Here are the disclaimers, basically saying that I am not, as far as a professional goes, a Social Security expert here to help you with any individual planning sessions or decisions. This is informational only, educational only. And roughly our agenda will be Social Security then versus now, how the program has changed, what that means to you, your benefits, how they're calculated, what they mean, when to file. We'll touch on spousal, divorced and widows and widowers benefits, wrap it up with taxes, and then we'll wrap it up from there. So real quickly, when Social Security was first started back in the mid 1930s, for retirement age was 65. It didn't pay anybody else except retirees who reached 65 and filed. There were about 20 plus workers for every individual beneficiary helping to support the system for the beneficiaries taking money out. And average life expectancy was only 63. So half the people didn't even make it to age 65 in order to file Anyway, so the system was extremely financially robust. But you fast forward to today, life expectancy is growing. So people are not only more making it to file, but also living longer and collecting benefits. A lot fewer workers supporting the system, more than just retired workers. It also pays survivors benefits, spousal benefits, benefits for children, and disability benefits. And for the last decade or plus now, the system has been paying out more in benefits than it's taking in from payroll taxes. For most of its history, that wasn't the case. It was bringing in more money than paying out, and that surplus was going into what's called the Social Security Trust Fund. That trust fund, when you hear the media or people talking about Social Security is on its way to going bankrupt, they're not really talking about Social Security itself. They're talking about the surplus that's in the trust fund that we're now using to cover the difference between the payments coming in and the benefits going out. So we are running a deficit. The trust fund is covering it, but by the mid 2030s, it's projected that trust fund is going to run out. Doesn't mean there's no more money for Social Security. As long as we have people working and paying payroll taxes, there is money to then go out and pay beneficiaries collecting their Social Security payments. But there won't be anything necessarily to cover that discrepancy between what's coming in and what's going out. So if we don't want benefits to be cut, right now it's projected that 70 to 75% of the benefits could still be paid, but that means 20 or 25 to 30% can't be paid by the mid 2030s and beyond. Well, then Congress needs to get off its tailbone and get some reform done to make the system viable again. When that's going to happen, if it's going to happen, what it's going to look like, nobody knows, but something needs to be done to keep the system intact or somewhat intact the way it looks today. But what that does mean is even if nothing is done, there are still going to be benefits to be collected by people who have contributed to the system all these years and are now beneficiaries of that system. So don't just throw your hands up and say, what's the sense in even planning for it? Is it even going to be there? Something is going to be there. We don't know what it's going to look like, but it's better to plan and be prepared for that than just ignore it and then be caught totally by surprise. So as you know, the question is, can you depend on it? Over almost 175 million people are depending upon it today, are covered, paying in or collecting. More than 65 million Americans are actually receiving benefits today. There are currently 46 and a half older Americans. That number is going to grow substantially by the mid 2030s. So again, the system is under stress, but it will survive in one shape or another. So best to be prepared and plan for it appropriately and make it the important part of your retirement puzzle that it will be. Now, it was never designed to be the only part of your retirement puzzle. It's meant to be a piece of that pie. Social Security, from the day it was started all the way through today, was designed by itself to do one thing and one thing only, and that's to keep you out of poverty, just right above poverty. So if all you have is Social Security, you can survive there in retirement, but it's hard to thrive because you really don't have any room for error. You're basically right above the poverty line. So it is important that through working with financial professionals like Travis, that you do focus on your personal savings, your 401k, other things you can do on your own. And if you're fortunate enough to have a pension, those are rare these days in the American workforce, that you also understand that and appropriately plan with that. So again, all these different pieces will need to be taken into account of, funded and planned for in order to have that happy retirement that Travis mentioned at the beginning, and not just a retirement where you're stressed out, striving, having trouble sleeping at night. There's a big difference between those two different types of retirements. Now, the benefits can be substantial. If you are a high wage earner, meaning you're maxing out your Social Security contributions through your payroll taxes for a long enough time, then by the time you do reach full retirement age and file, you could be getting over $3,000 a month, which equivocates to about $40,000 a year. Now, to give you an idea of what that would take to construct outside of Social Security and why you should take this so seriously, if you were to come to a financial advisor like Travis and say, I want to benefit this big on a monthly and therefore annual basis, and as we go forward a little bit, I wanted to adjust for inflation. I want it to last for as long as I live, no matter how long that is. And also for the benefits to continue for as long as my spouse lives, no matter how long that is. You're going to be talking about here, it says a the equivalent of bringing a bucket of money with $600,000 in it, and really probably even more than that when you factor in other things. So somewhere between 600,000 to $1 million out of your own pocket is what it would take a financial advisor today to construct something that Social Security can do for you. So don't dismiss it. It's going to be there. It can be a substantial benefit, but by the other side of that coin, don't over rely on it. You do need to do other work beyond that with your savings through 401ks, IRAs, personal savings, things such as that. Now, how do you earn Social Security? Well, you earn it by working and paying payroll taxes. You need 40 credits to qualify when you retire to actually draw from Social Security. And you can earn a max of 4 credits per year. All you have to do to earn a credit is earn at least $1,500 and change. You can do that some of us in your first paycheck in January. Doesn't have to be spread throughout the year, but as long as you earn that amount of money times 4, at some point during the course of a calendar year, you've gotten your 4 credits. And then when you go to file for Social Security, they're going to look at your entire earnings history that's been reported to the Social Security Administration and take your highest 35 years indexed for inflation. So they'll go all the way back to the beginning of your earnings history. Whatever that was, probably was a lot less than today's dollars because of inflation, but they will index that up. Year number 2, index that up, et cetera, et cetera. Once all those years are indexed to the current dollar amount via inflation, they'll take the highest 35 and average those out. So it's not your highest 5 like some pensions or your last 5. It's your highest 35 years. Now, you only need 10 years of credits. 10 times 4 is 40. You can get 40 credits in 10 years. So you don't need to work for the full 35. But if you haven't, you're going to have some zeros in there. They don't ignore the years where you don't have earnings. They just lump a 0 in there. And if you know anything about averages, when you start throwing zeros into a series of calculations to draw an average from, it'll really pull that average down. So something to take into consideration when you're thinking about when should I file for Social Security, how many years of earnings do you have? And if just by working a few years longer, can you replace some potential zeros with actual substantial numbers that could, in the long run, really boost your Social Security payment that you actually do receive for the rest of your life once you file for Social Security. So that's one aspect to take into account before you decide to file. How many years of earnings do I have? And can I fill in some zeros by working a few extra years? Greatly improve my situation. To check on your benefits and to see how many earning years you have and what those numbers look like. Paper statements still get mailed out, but to a more limited audience these days. Or you can go to the ssa.gov, it's /my account, and sign up for an account that will then allow you to access your earnings history. Or you can call that number on the screen, 800-772-1213, and request a statement be sent to you at that point in time. But it is important that you know, as you're getting closer and closer to considering filing for Social Security, what your earnings history looks like, so you can gauge what your benefits may look like, see if there's any mistakes or numbers that don't look correct, and then work with the Social Security Administration to get those corrected. But yeah, in order to know where you're going, you got to know from where you're starting, and that's important to know by looking at your Social Security statement. Full retirement age is between 65 and 67, depending upon when you were born. I'm an early Gen Xer, born in 1968. So my full retirement age, if they don't change the rules by then, will be age 67. You don't have to wait till full retirement age to file, though. You can file as young as 62, as long as you qualify for benefits. We all can do that. Or you can delay it up until age 70. You can technically delay it beyond that, but there's no reason to. At age 70, your benefit ceases to grow. There's no sense in delaying it. If you haven't filed by 70, go ahead. So here's kind of the timeline as to when your full retirement age, depending upon your birth year. So Anybody born before 1943, their full retirement age was still 65, but for 43 and beyond, that started to get later and later in life. And again, here we are at 1960 and later. It's now age 67 is full retirement age for people born that year and beyond. So again, knowing when your full retirement age is important, because if you file before that, you're going to give up some of your full benefit. Or if you can wait beyond that, you will get more than your full benefit. You'll get credits for delaying your filing up until age 70, where that stops, as I mentioned earlier. Now, here's an example of what these different filing ages can mean for you. Here we assumed that at age 67, your full retirement age, your benefit was going to equal $1,000. But if I decided I wanted to retire or file at 62, it would only be 700. So that's a 30% discount or haircut off my full benefit on my monthly check every year for the rest of my retirement. So it's not just $300, it's $300 a month over 20, 25, 30, 35 years or more potentially. That can really add up. So again, you need to understand these numbers and the consequence of a long lifespan before you fully comprehend what filing early or filing late could do. If I wait until age 70 in the same situation, I would get 1240, which is a full 24% increase, or roughly 8% per year between 67 and 70 for delaying that. So there is a financial benefit to your monthly check for delaying the filing, but filing later is not necessarily the best rule of thumb for everybody. It can make sense. It's something to consider because we are living longer in retirement than previous generations. And this says the average male has an average life expectancy of 19 years beyond age 65. The average female has 21 more years beyond of age 65 of expected life expectancy. But remember, these are averages. That means half the people who are age 65, half the men will live more than 19 years, and half the women will live more than 21 years. These are just averages. So you have to take longevity into account when you're trying to figure out where these numbers make sense for you. Now, there are some reasons why you might still want to file early, even though it's going to maybe cost you money on your monthly check. If you have health problems, and perhaps it's unlikely for me because of my health problems or my family history for me to live that long in retirement, that can make sense. If you're already having financial issues, I have a family member who back in the previous financial crisis, back in '08, had a very nice job, but they were in their late 50s to early 60s. They lost that job. They tried hunting around, but their industry was not very favorable to older workers. And finally, when they reached Social Security age, they needed the income. They went ahead and filed because it's what they had to do. If you're already retired, it can make sense. If you're a single income household, again, you need money to help you support your lifestyle. Social Security is there at those ages. Or if you have school age children at home because you had them later in life, or you're a grandparent or a family member who's assumed guardianship of somebody else's kids, if they're your dependents on your taxes, you can get extra benefits after you file for Social Security if you're raising school age children at home at that point in time. So again, there are reasons why filing later makes a lot of sense. There are reasons why filing early can make a lot of sense. It all depends upon your personal situation. And that's why it is important to talk and work with the financial advisor who knows all these moving parts and can help guide you through them correctly. I still know a lot of people who just, not that they wake up one day and say, I'm going to retire, but they may have an age in mind and it's 65, 66, 67, 62. They've just targeted that, but really haven't done the legwork to see, do the numbers even make sense for me to do that then? But sometimes people just retire and then figure out afterwards and then realize, oh, I'm not in as great shape as I thought I was. Doing the homework previous to this can make all the difference in the world for your retirement. Now, spousal benefits. Again, when the program was first started, it covered the worker only. Over time, through various legislation and reforms, they also decided to extend benefits to spouses in various means. Now, this makes sense. A spouse who stays at home may not be paying into Social Security, or maybe they're only working part-time and not paying a lot into Social Security. But by taking care of the home front, so to speak, they are providing a value to society by either raising kids or allowing the other spouse to go out and earn a higher standard of living, therefore paying more into Social Security. So there's a good reason why spousal benefits have been offered and why those have been extended to widows and widowers and divorce benefits as well. So we break this down. Basically, the spousal benefit is when you, as a spouse, a married person, goes to file for Social Security, they're going to look at your own benefit based upon your work record and the taxes you've paid into the system over the years versus what your spouse has done and what 50% of their benefit may look like. And then you will get to hire one of those calculations, either your own work history or half of your spouse's work history. So you get the higher check in addition to your spouse when they file getting their check as well. So that's the basic spousal benefit, making sure that you as a spouse who may have spent most of their time at home or in and out of the workforce to take care of that home front, as I mentioned, doesn't get unnecessarily penalized because you did in a different way contribute to society, and we're not going to financially penalize you for that. So if you want to file for spousal benefit, though, your spouse must also have filed already. Filing for spousal benefits early, just like filing for your own benefits early, will reduce your benefits. So waiting till full retirement age or later is still the maximum monthly financial benefit to you. And then the percentage of that reduction depends on how early the benefit is taken. So for all your benefits, filing at 62 would be typically the lowest amount you would get. Waiting till 62 in a few months, 63, 60, etc. The longer you wait, even before full retirement age, the more you will get until you reach full retirement age. Then it's your full benefit. And then if you're waiting beyond that, you get those extra benefits, those delayed credits. Now, widow or widower benefits, you can receive those full benefits at the full retirement age. But this is the one exception where they will allow someone to file earlier than age 62. If you are a widow or widower, you can file for those benefits as young as 60, but it's nearly a 30% decrease in what you would get at taken at 60. And then you can collect that as a widow or widower. You can collect your deceased spouse's benefits off of their record while letting your own benefit continue to defer. So while taking their benefit because you need or want the money, you can keep your hands off of yours, perhaps wait till your full retirement age or beyond. Perhaps then your benefit has grown to be higher than what you're getting from your deceased spouse's benefits. And you can then switch to your own benefit at that point in time. So there are some strategies. And once you file for one type of benefit, doesn't necessarily preclude you from getting other types of benefits. But again, that's why it takes a financial expert like Travis to help walk you through this, depending upon your own individual situation. And then when it comes to divorce benefits, in order to qualify, and demand or claim benefits off of your divorced spouse's earning record, you had to have been married to them for at least 10 years. The divorce has to have been at least 2 years old by now. The former spouse, the person you divorced, is entitled to benefits. They have to have a Social Security earnings record themselves that qualifies. You, as the claiming ex-spouse, have to be unmarried. If you remarry, you now disallow yourself from getting those benefits. You, the claiming ex-spouse, is at least 62. And you, the claiming ex-spouse, cannot qualify for a higher benefit on your own earnings record. Because if your earnings record is higher, why would you want to settle for your divorced partner's benefits anyway? Because when you file, it doesn't do anything to their earnings. You're not taking anything away from them or from their new spouse they may have. You would be just handicapping yourself if you decided to take the lower benefit out of spite that's not even working, as opposed to claiming your own higher benefit. Now, there are some unintended consequences to all these rules. You go to states with high retiree populations like the Southwest, like Florida, you go to these retirement homes, you'll see a lot of people who are cohabitating. They would probably get married, but because they are older Americans and have already filed for Social Security, and maybe they're collecting divorced persons benefits, or they're collecting widows benefits, were they to get married, those benefits would then go away and they'd be back on their own benefits again. So you have a lot of people who maybe later in life would get married, but financially it just makes sense not to, because they're collecting more in Social Security in their current situation as opposed to getting married. So there's always unintended consequences for complex decisions like this. Now, moving on, remember that Social Security is a social insurance program. Insurance, whether it's private, social, etc., is not designed to make you wealthy. It's designed to cover a specific risk. And here the risk is a retirement spent in poverty. So Social Security is there. Not everybody pays into Social Security or pays into it fully, though. There is a large class of government workers that may have their own pension and they're exempt from making Social Security contributions. Now, that raises some peculiar situations. Teachers specifically often have a second job during the off season, so to speak, that may actually pay into Social Security. But these programs aren't designed for you to quote unquote double dip to the full extent and get your retirement insurance from your pension and retirement insurance from Social Security beyond the normal scope. That's the windfall elimination, where they will try to claw some of that money back if you're trying to file for both. And then also the government pension offset, that's for spouses, so to speak. The spouse has their own government pension, and now they also want to file for spousal Social Security benefits off of their spouse's earning records. Well, again, the spousal benefit was set there for people who didn't have the opportunity to necessarily have a full-time job. If you have a government pension, you did have the opportunity, you do have retirement savings. So quickly it can look like this. So the windfall elimination can reduce your Social Security by as much as $512 a month in 2022. So they're balancing what they're going to pay you from Social Security versus what you're earning from your government pension, and may reduce that. But if you have 30 years of work or more under Social Security, they say, you know what, you've paid enough into the system. We're not going to do this windfall elimination. You can get your full Social Security benefit in addition to your pension benefit. And then the government pension offset, again, as a spouse, I have my own work record, but I want to file for spousal Social Security benefits off my spouse's record. They may offset your Social Security pension by as much as, or your payment by as much as 2/3 of your pension amount. So just ways to kind of prevent double dipping and taxing the system, as more going out than what's coming in, trying to reduce that where it's not really necessary. And then we're speeding towards the end here, working while receiving benefits. You really have to be concerned about this if you file for Social Security before your full retirement age and you keep working. If you do that, they will reduce your Social Security benefit $1 for every $2 you earn above the annual yearly earning limit. And in 2022, that's $19,560. So be aware that if you think you're going to file for Social Security early because you'd like that extra income, but you're also going to keep working, if you earn more than $20,000, you're going to be giving a lot of that benefit back. Is it really worth filing if that's what you're attempting to do? Probably not. Once you reach full retirement age and beyond, you can work as much as you want and still collect benefits, and there is no more reduction. But that can then lead you to a secondary type of situation, Social Security and taxes. So we know that your wages are taxed throughout your working years. That's how Social Security is funded. But then payments you receive from Social Security could also be taxed as you're collecting them in your retirement years. And the Social Security Administration reports that about 40% of its recipients these days pay taxes on those Social Security retirement benefits. So this is just a disclaimer saying we're talking about some tax stuff, but I am not a tax advisor. This is educational only. So how this works, once you have filed for benefits from Social Security, then every year you have to calculate your provisional income. And that's a combination of different earnings that you may have from your job, your wages, any pensions you're collecting, investment income, non-reportable income such as tax-exempt municipal bonds, any other exclusions to income, and then half of what Social Security is paying you. You add all this up to kind of get an idea of what the government thinks this is your standard of living in retirement with all of this income once you have filed. And then they apply it to this chart, and that determines how much of your Social Security benefit is actually taxed. So if you're making as a couple less than $32,000, you'll pay no tax on your Social Security benefits. Between 32 and 44,000, up to 50% may be taxed, and then greater than 44,000, up to 85% may be taxed. Now, don't confuse half of your benefit being taxed or 85% of your benefit being taxed with that much of your benefit being taken away. It's not a 50% tax. It's not an 85% tax. It just means that whatever your marginal tax bracket is then applied to up to half or up to 85% of the benefits you have collected. So, you are being taxed. It's not as high as it may look in some people's eyes, but again, there are strategies to minimize some of this so that you can pay less in taxes or vary it from year to year. Again, a person like Travis, who's not only got the financial advisor background, but the accountancy and tax background, is an ideal financial advisor to work with when you're trying to maximize these strategies. So where to file for benefits, you can do it in person, but those places are severely understaffed these days. So better have an appointment, because if you just get on there and wait, you're going to be waiting a long time. You can go online and ask for help at ssa.gov, or you can use the phone number 800-772-1213 to schedule a callback phone appointment to go over your questions. And remember, Social Security is only part of a much bigger retirement picture. So also focus on your other investments. I do work for Protective Life Insurance. We are a life insurance and annuity company. Specifically, the products I work on are annuities, which are usually designed as a supplemental lifetime income beyond Social Security. But whether that fits your individual situation or not is a conversation for you and your financial advisor. Again, here are the disclaimers. But with that, I am going to wrap it up and turn it back over to Travis to take us home and help us wrap up this presentation today.
Brant, thank you so much for the presentation today. Obviously, everyone, you can see there's a lot of points to consider when looking at your benefits and how to plan for how you want to take those. If you'd like to talk with someone about your own personal situation, or if you know someone that would benefit from talking about their situation, we are here to help, and we're willing to do that. We will be following up with everybody on the call today and over the next week to answer any questions that you have from the presentation today. We'll also be sending out an email with a link to get a personalized report based on your household Social Security benefits. So if you have any questions on those, please reach out to Michelle or me or anyone on my team. If you've enjoyed this presentation, please let us know. We will be having another webinar next month, not on Social Security. We'll have another topic, and the information should be coming out on that shortly. Again, thanks everyone for joining us. Brant, thank you so much for the presentation today. Everyone, I hope you have a great day and have a good one.